Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for all you fine people for your Friday, March 11th. We're almost halfway through March already. And, about a week ago, somebody made a comment on the channel about how news videos, I don't talk about Detroit. Why don't I talk about Detroit? Detroit exists. And I pointed out in my response that very often, whoever I'm wearing and whatever team I'm talking about, it's because there's injuries and there's bad things that have happened. So if a team's not in a news of the day video, that's probably a good thing. Means I don't have anything to say that might be, injury related. There's nothing really big going on there. And so in that vein, the Detroit Red Wings today, Robbie Fabbri is expected to miss the rest of the season. He got hurt last night against Minnesota. He is expected to be done. Lower body injury. So that's the end of it. And it's too bad because Fabbri really has had a good season for Detroit. He's been a very solid top six forward option for them. He's, of course, signed to them beyond this season. And he's one of those key forwards for them, and it's a shame to see that happen. For Detroit, that means next one up, and you bring somebody else in, and you see what they can do. But for Fabbri, his season is done. The New York Islanders have sent Otto Koivula back down to the AHL as Zdeno Chara's off the injured reserve list. Now, there's been talk about whether or not Chara might move at the deadline and whether or not he's going to stick with the Islanders the whole year and all that. But I think they'll leave it up to him. And I'm not sure if you did make him available on the market, what the most is you could get for Chara. And if that would make it worth making that move. So Chara's back for the Islanders in their next game tonight. And we'll see how that goes. Now, for Vegas news. So yesterday, Riley Smith was scratched. And they didn't say why, which meant that people decided he must be getting traded. He's not getting traded. What happened is it's a knee injury for Smith. They just didn't report it at the time. So he is returned to Vegas along with Robin Lehner. They're both being evaluated. And so, for Smith, he may still end up getting traded at some point, but that's not why he was a scratch last night. It's a knee injury. So, of course, then the next speculation becomes great. They're going to put him on LTIR and they're going to bring Stone back or Martinez back. Sure, fine. Keeping in mind, of course, Vegas could end up seeing themselves outside the playoff picture by the end of this weekend. And it is an interesting trade deadline in that there seems to be a number of teams contending for playoff spots right now, and I'm only worried about teams contending for playoff spots who have goaltending issues. So Detroit, I'm not talking about them for that, even though lately it's not been great. Whether that's defense or goaltending, that's also the question you can ask of these four teams. The Toronto Maple Leafs, Edmonton Oilers, Minnesota Wild, Vegas Golden Knights. All four of them, I think, will be looking to maybe change things up. Now, the only one that may not is Minnesota, but recent play would tell me that Talbot's been shaky at times, Kakanen's been shaky at times, and if you're of the mind that the goaltending's been fine, that'd mean the defense has been shaky. So these four teams may all be trying to upgrade a position that's very difficult to upgrade. There's been a lot of speculation of Marc-Andre Fleury. I haven't seen anything of substance in terms of him actually wanting to move or Chicago actually actively trying to move him out. Chicago has said that they'll move him if he wants to go anywhere else, and I haven't seen that yet. So goaltending is going to be key because for the Leafs especially, if they lose in the first round again, that's going to be seen as a huge fail. And I don't know whether that all falls on the GM, if it falls on the players, if it hits the coach, or what happens. And for Edmonton, if goaltending ends up costing them a playoff spot, or again, if it's the defense, however you want to view it, that'll be seen as a fail while you have McDavid and Draisaitl both in the prime of their careers. And of course, for Vegas, this is year 5. If they ended up missing the playoffs, in part because of goaltending issues, especially when Marc-Andre Fleury's had a good year in Chicago, that's going to reflect on the organization too. So, goaltending I think is going to be the spot to watch, but I really don't think there's a fix. For one thing that could happen, we could see like teams trading with one another, where they're like, all right, well, this goalie's not doing great here. This goalie's not, so if we trade them for each other, which of course has other issues with that as well. Like for all of the Korpisalo talk I've heard, I don't know that Korpisalo would be a fix for any teams. It's possible he goes on a run after the trade, but you're betting on him turning around what's been kind of a down year for him too. Buffalo talk. So Eichel saying last night after the game that it was the loudest he's ever heard the place. All the booing and everybody being into it. And I have to say, it's the loudest I've heard Buffalo fans all year. I've watched games set in Buffalo that have been so absolutely ridiculously quiet. You'd be forgiven to, if you start having flashbacks to the bubble playoffs. It's been so quiet. But what's interesting is that the players they got for Eichel in Tuck and Krebs, and that's only part of the package they got in that deal. Both of them scored last night against the team that they played for. And both of them have been excellent so far for Buffalo. Alex Tuck has been... what's funny is I said that Buffalo fans would like Tuck. I think he's outperformed what I thought he'd be able to do in Buffalo. So, honestly, it's been great to watch him. And now Vegas is a team that's not scoring goals, and Tuck can score goals. So, it's interesting to see how Vegas has made move after move after move. And, again, I made this argument in the video where I talked about their trade deadline, whether or not they're better. Whether or not, trading for Eichel and going out and getting all the players they have, are they a better team right now than what they were 4 years ago when they went to the Stanley Cup final? I would argue they have better players now. I don't know that they're a better team, and that can be the biggest challenge. I remember the Rangers, early 2000s. They would have so many big names on their team and miss the playoffs. So it can be very tough to figure out the whole chemistry side of it. And Buffalo, the chemistry seems to be working to the point where they're looking to add. They want to pick up another defenseman. So anticipating that they're going to sign Owen Power and they're going to have him on the blue line next year, they want to sign they want to pick up another top four defenseman. So they may pick up a top four defenseman by the deadline. They're actively looking to make a trade. And if they can't, then they'll look at it through the summer, probably through free agency. So Buffalo is looking to add. They feel like they're in a good position right now to pick up players, which is good news. Honestly, I can't remember any time in Buffalo's run while this channel's been going where at or near the trade deadline we're talking about Buffalo being optimistic and looking at the deadline as a chance for them to maybe add a piece they need for next season. Good news out of Dallas. They're working on an extension with Joe Pavelski. That could be done by the end of the day. That could be done by the time this video goes live. Pavelski's been fantastic, and just his chemistry with Hintz and Robertson, then, whatever it costs to keep him around, I think you do your best to do that. I mean, it has to be fiscally responsible too, but Pavelski's been great, and apparently Dallas doesn't want to make the mistake that San Jose did by letting him go. So it looks like he's going to be sticking around in Dallas for a while. Which, again, is good news for the Stars. New Jersey news. Miles Wood, Nico Hischier, both at practice, both in non-contact jerseys. Wood's been out for a while. Hischier's missed the last few games, so it looks like he may be out for a while longer. New Jersey, of course, not in the hunt for the playoffs, but again, looking to see where guys are going towards next season. It's important to be healthy and to play for that reason. And, so for New Jersey, that just, again, as I mentioned with Fabbri, it gives other players a chance then to show what they can do with these guys out. Coming out of last night's game between Colorado and Carolina, I find this one curious. Gabriel Landeskog, who's not known for making big complaints, he gets a 10-minute misconduct with 52 seconds left last night. And so after the game, he was not happy with the officiating, which I think we're going to hear more and more of, because, again, the games are very, very important. And, we're after the All-Star break. The games are getting more important, and we're also seeing more games in a shorter period of time. And I think players are tired. So Landeskog felt that Niederreiter took a dive on a high stick that Kadri got. And he's saying, that's fine. That's a high stick. But Nino kind of embellished it. Then Kadri was hooked later. There's no call. And apparently the ref's response was that Kadri was looking for a call and he kind of sold it, which is why they didn't call the penalty. But then there was a penalty called on Devon Taves shortly after that put Carolina on the power play. Now, the Canes win this game 2-0 last night, and the second goal was an empty netter. The one thing I'd throw out there, and I know this could have changed things, both teams were 0-4 on the power play. Avs 0 for 3, Canes 0 for 4. So I understand where Landeskog's coming from. I don't know if this completely affected the outcome. I think Colorado was very frustrated. I think Carolina's capable of frustrating teams. They're better defensively than they get credit for. They're very good at shutting down teams, and their penalty kill is fantastic. But yeah, so they weren't happy about that. I don't know if we're going to see a fine for Landeskog or not. I haven't seen anything happen with Bob Bugner for the overtime call the other night where he complained. So I had no idea. I mean, it's a Canes game, so maybe they'll find Brindamore for what Landeskog. Sure, why not? But yeah, nothing with Landeskog at this point. I understand his frustration. There's definitely been borderline calls both ways. It feels to me like now that we're getting closer to the playoffs, the referees are letting more go, and they're kind of picking and choosing some of the stuff they are calling. Because again, as the games go along, they want to let the players decide things, so they don't want power plays. And what you end up with is fans and players being mad because things that are penalties in October aren't necessarily penalties at this time of year, and that can be frustrating. And I've talked about that. I have said I think they should call the book. I think they should call the book all year. I think they should call the rule book in the playoffs, and players will adjust. And so what we're seeing right now is, and for me, this is one thing. Another thing that has been happening in games recently too is you'll start to see that physical play ramping up, and little borderline calls they're not calling, and so it just keeps amping up, and before you know it, you have a game like Detroit and Minnesota last night where it gets really physical and brawly. And again, while there's definitely a portion of fans that really enjoy that, and some players might enjoy that too, for me, I feel like, referees need to keep control of the game, and they need to have that consistency in their calls. So we're still looking for that. Interesting news out of Arizona, and this is from Chris Johnston. So they're trying to work out an extension with Vejmelka, right? Vejmelka's a free agent after this year. But if they can't work out a deal with him before the deadline, they may trade him. And they may trade him for the simple fact that he could be the best goalie on the market. As I said, without Fleury being on the market, if he's not available, Vejmelka might be the best option. I will say Vejmelka would be a better option than Korpisalo at this stage. And not very many teams are looking to move a goaltender. So it may end up being a situation where Arizona, goes with Wedgwood the rest of the way, and maybe Vejmelka moves on. Because the other risk you run is if he doesn't sign an extension in Arizona, then you're losing him for nothing. So we'll see if he gets moved. If one of these four teams puts in an offer on him and what that might look like. I mean, Mike Smith played in Arizona before, right? So it is possible maybe Mrazek ends up being moved by Toronto. It would be absolutely crazy if Toronto made a move like that, but are they going to? The big thing with Toronto, of course, is defense. That's where they're apparently looking to upgrade things, but the goaltending numbers haven't been fantastic lately either. I would not be surprised to see a move there. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.